Hey guys, King of Charmanters here. Today I'll be your judge, your jury, and your analyst. And today I bring to you the top 5 teams in the Kanto Cup. So Kanto Cup is actually where I made Legend, so I'm kind of biased. Arguably, it's my best cup because I always perform insanely well in this cup just because of my little secret weapon that I'm going to make another video about, and it's going to release tomorrow. Ironically enough, that team actually isn't in this team. Isn't in these top 5. It's not in the list either. So I did try to break it in, but there are other combinations, and not a lot of people have the main component of my team. But hopefully this list does help you out. There's a lot of teams out there that are crazy, and these teams are still really strong. As I always say, please consider contributing to pvpoke.com. So my next mental health tidbit today from a therapist. Okay, let's see. What do we got? Okay, we got... No, it's the wrong page. Okay. Oh, yeah. So, as you see here, what I mentioned, well, it's basically a caveat. If you're watching this video, you probably likely watched the Master Premier Classic video that came before this one. You did a deep breathing technique, but also just be sure to be mindful. Emotion control is a very advanced skill, and it will make you very, very well. You could do that via deep breathing or just stopping yourself in the moment. In other words, will this action I make either really screw me over or be really beneficial? If I yell at this person with all my might, or yell at my phone and toss it across the freaking room like you know we all want to do because of Go Battle freaking lag, then, you know what? Might not be valuable to throw your $1,000 phone. Yes, I have the iPhone XX Max. Don't ask me why. Just because of Pokemon Go, I get really expensive phones just so in prayers that it work. But even with like really expensive phones, Go Battle League still freaking lags. So take a second whenever you feel like doing something and you're just pissed off. Just determined. Just wonder to yourself and think. Take one breath and then breathe out. And then you're like, all right, I'm good. Anyways, here is the top 5. Hope you guys enjoyed that tip. The top 5 teams are very interesting. I told y'all Lapras was good. Literally in the 4 of the 5 teams, freaking Lapras is in there. And for good reason. Anyways, let's get started. Alright, so team number 5 is Lapras, Amok, and Ninetales. Ninetales is very... Okay, so statistically, Ninetales is really good for the sheer fact that if you do land overheat, it does a ton of damage. However, if they do shield, it puts you in a lot of trouble because if you're locked into a bad matchup, they're likely going to farm you down. Because they can eat Weather Balls or another overheat because it does debuff you -2. This does feature a unique Alolan Muck. You are using Snarl, Acid Spray, and Dark Pulse. And of course, you want Skull Bash Lapras just in case you get the mirror. For this team, it comes at a very high score. Unfortunately, it's not like 569. So sadly, it's not incredible. It does run a 569, so that can be an argument for you. But that's what it is. Unique individuals using this team. Honestly, it's really not that unique. I've seen this team. I actually had this team using against me like a few times. So I'm not sure it's because of this listing. Actually, it was before the rankings came out. So someone was like using it. I was like, oh, hello. Hi, Loch Ness Monster. It's not like we haven't seen you before. Anyways, great coverage, great bulk, amazing safety. This team is very safe. You have 2 very powerful safe switches. Not a lot of consistent damage though, just because you have fire. You have three turn moves basically, so you're not gonna. It's trouble. Chansey gives you a hard time with this entire team. Chansey will go to Pound Town and can eat a whole ton of crap against your entire team. However, in the 2 shield, Lapras can beat Chansey, so keep in mind, it's not all bad if you insert the... Okay, so if we insert the 2s, as you see here, hit the 2 shield, hit the simulator. As you see, Chansey does lose with a 2-turn deficit. However, literally where the game as broken is right now, just be very careful. And this assumes that they do debuff with Psychic. If they don't debuff with Psychic, but they do shield it, you have a more comfortable matchup. So just keep it in the mind. Chansey isn't exactly foolproof against the Loch Ness Monster, which is Lapras. This team does have a pretty dang high threat score. Chansey, again, in the 2 shield, you don't beat it. Alolan Graveler can give you an issue just because of the Volt Switch damage, being able to beat out Chansey. And of course, both Lapras and Ninetales are weak to Rock type. So keep that in mind. Seeking, Poliwhirl, Almastar, Lord Helix's evolved form. However, the evolved form still bows down to Lord Helix, is very powerful. Now, I've seen a lot of Poliwrath running around here, so that's another thing to be careful as well. If it's running Dynamic Punch, Ice Punch, it's trouble. If it's Scald Dynamic Punch, you're in a really bad spot. I've seen a lot of Poliwraths in the lead. Dynamic Punch does a ton of damage. And against Ninetales, if they're running Scald, it will one-shot. So just keep that in mind. Very powerful team nonetheless. This is a very powerful combination. Pretty accessible with all the mons too. Lapras, Amok as your safe switch, and Ninetales. Double safe switch essentially for this team. Alright, next up we have Dewgong lead, Hypno safe switch, and Amok to close out. Or really, it's a double safe switch with the most annoying water tank in the game, Dewgong. Very powerful team. As you see, B's across the board except for the A for consistency. So this team will do a ton of consistent damage. Dewgong in the lead is dangerous because if you get a neutral matchup, if it's not a winning matchup, you have a lot of play because those icy wind defense are very, very annoying. As you see, Dewgong does really well against the overall meta with the exception of Lapras, just because Lapras can Skull Bash you to death. Lapras goes full speed head first into the water seal of death, and well, they die, you don't die, so just keep that in mind. This team, however, is very susceptible to a lot of combinations. Lickitung actually doesn't do too well. Actually, Lickitung does well against just because of Power Whip, and Body Slam does add up against Alolan Muck. Again, like I mentioned, Lapras does beat Dewgong. Lapras also has a pretty decent matchup against Hypno and Alolan Muck. Dewgong kind of like gives Alolan Ninetales a hard time, but if you look at the shield and 2-shield, it's still not that great just because even you're just doing neutral damage basically. So if you go to the 2-shield scenario, you hit that, then we hit the sim and hit go. As you see here, Ninetales will still lose. They have the double bait with Icy Wind and then you overheat, but like it's still because Dewgong is just so freaking tanky. Don't bank on it. That's all I'd say. Just don't bank on it. So as you see, this team has a pretty high threat score of 656. Dewgong, if you get the fighter in the lead, it's going to suck a lot for you, or just the electric types, like for example, Electrode or Alolan Muck. But just because Dewgong has so much bulk, you can use those Icy Wind debuffs, and water does hit for a lot of the different combinations in Kanto Cup for either neutral or super effective damage. Still on a high threat score though. However, this team did perform at 570, so it did perform very well. Double safe switch, I'm not opposed to it, and Dewgong is still very powerful in the lead. Alrighty, so be warned, the top 3 teams all have Lickitung in it. So if you don't have a Lickitung XL, I don't have a Lickitung XL, so you're in luck, or we're not in luck. Nidoqueen lead, Lapras as your safe switch. Lickitung can also function as a safe switch. A's across the freaking board. This team is very powerful, standing at a rating of 573. So it's really good, balanced, and strong. All these Pokemon here have a ton of bulk. I was just watching the basketball game, so buck. You get it, the Bucks like Milwaukee. Anyways, as you see here, Chansey is very well. Chansey does have basically like gives you a hard time with this entire team. Resists Lickitung's licks and is just a super tank of destruction. So as you see here, it does maintain a very low threat score, but this does generally well against the overall meta. Chansey being a big problem. Chansey is able to Chansey doesn't really have any hard counters outside of like 3 Pokemon, and you don't have any of those hard counters on your squad. So a Chansey will be insanely annoying for you to handle. Unless you can Skull Bash with Lapras and just like Water Ice Shard surf down, or if you get like 2 Skull Bash buffs, it's amazing. Very powerful team, low threat score of 532. Yeah, I don't foresee a lot of Venusaur leads, but you can definitely see Lapras lead. So Lapras lead or Dewgong lead is going to give you a very, very difficult time with this team, but still very powerful nonetheless. I do agree with it. As you see, anything like ice or psychic types, safe switch into Lapras. You could choose to safe switch into Lapras and then break shield, and then or you could switch into Lickitung and do that. Really, either way, it's up to you. But it's still a very powerful team, like I mentioned. Generic movesets across the board: Lick, Body Slam, Power Whip, Ice Shard, Skull Bash, Surf, and of course Nidoqueen is running Earth Power and Poison Fang. And it's not the Shadow version either. So, for those of you who've been watching my videos, remember I preached that Pidgeot was good? Well, Pidgeot is the number 2 team. As you see here, Pidgeot is in both of the top 2 teams, standing at a very high rating of 574 and 576 respectively. This uses Pidgeot in the lead, standard moveset, and it has Pidgeot, Lapras, and Lickitung XL. Yeah. Your back row is weak to fighters, so it's really interesting what happens if you see the Machamp in the back, because I've seen the Machamp in the back, and it's a really rough time for anybody running double weak to fighting in the back. A's across the board, however, except for consistency. Because Pidgeot has Gust, that takes away your consistency rating. Just keep that in mind. Still very powerful, as you see here. Pidgeot on Pidgeot action. If you do get the mirror, try to see who wins CMP, and then try to play accordingly. If not, win the lead outright, do your thing, and then hopefully Lapras and Lickitung with shields or energy can close out. Pretty low threat score, 574. Again, 600, 630s on the high side. This one's pretty decent. Pidgeot is susceptible to the ice meta. Getting run through by Pidgeot or basically the Alolan Graveler, Golem, or even Electrode leads will give you a very hard time. Basically, if you like fried chicken, just put it in the air fryer. Literally the air fryer where you're throwing, and then shoot up the electricity with volt switches. Or if you really want to, yeah. But it's still a very strong team. Again, 574 rating. Still on the low end. You lose lead with Pidgeot. You can safe switch into Lapras or Lickitung. I recommend Lapras. And then what you can do with Lapras is break shields. Because if you're locked into a Machamp, you could at least break a shield. And then line it up with Pidgeot so Pidgeot can take all that energy, throw at your opponent, and hopefully Lickitung XL can close out. Don't like the fact that Lickitung XL is in this team, but it's what it is, you know what I mean? You have that Big Thick Licky. Big Thick Licky is very, very strong. And the number one team, standing at an impressive 576, not too much from the one below it. Literally, you have the same core of Lapras and Pidgeot. It's just you're like, as you see, Nidoqueen and Lickitung are the only difference. Nidoqueen lead is very strong in this cup because of the poison type buff, basically, and it's the standard Lapras and Pidgeot moveset. Amazing coverage, amazing safety as well. This team is very safe. You have Pidgeot and Lapras as your safe switch, but also you have a very powerful switch in the lead, so good safety, great bulk, and consistency. Does a ton of work against a lot of the meta, with Chansey giving you the only issue. As you see, Mr. Mime, Galarian, Mr. Mime, and Lapras, anything that Nidoqueen's weak to confusion users or ice users, switch into Lapras, and then Pidgeot closes out. Very powerful team. It's just Chansey XL is super annoying, so if you see one in the lead, you're going to be like, oh gosh, not this again. But you can Poison Fang it to death. Just be very wary of that Psychic. As you see here, low threat score 571. So low threat score, good components. You're very likely either have won all three of these Pokemon, or you can build them pretty soon. I would just hold on to it because hopefully at the end of the year they have that TM event to where you can TM community moves. But as you see, this team is very, very strong. General consensus is safe switching to Lapras. Nidoqueen still does work. Again, with Earth Power, Poison Fang, you can keep your opponent on their toes and do a lot of pressure. Fires don't like eating Earth Power. You also don't want to be baited by Poison Fang. So it's basically literally pick your poison. Very strong team though. As you see overall, that's a lot of X's. Other than Chansey and again, what you're weak against, ice types as well as confusion users. Still a very rough matchup, but you can still find win cons even if you see that confusion lead, just because Lapras and Pidgeot are able to break shields. Or you could just Hail Mary Burb with Pidgeot. I've gotten back-to-back Burbs so many times about this bird. I'm just like, did they really nerf you? Because I'm thinking, you know, it didn't really even matter. Like, that's how it feels. And that's GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Oldies but newbies like Laprel. Oldies but goodsies, I guess. I said that in the wrong context. As you see, very, very strong. A lot of teams have Lapras, Hypno in them, which are very, very powerful to begin with. So I'm not surprised. Kanto Cup. I did make Legend Kanto Cup, so I'm a little biased, but it's always been like my best cup just because of, I'll show you in the team shoutcast tomorrow. Just like what my team is. I played a few things and just how crazy the journey was, because lag sucks a lot. So hopefully may the strong connection be with you, not the weak connection, not that stupid little pink sign that comes up every time you are lagging and you're about to win, but then you actually lose because that pink sign comes up and says weak connection. No, have strong connection, very strong connection. Anyways, if you guys would do me a huge favor, please like and subscribe. It's totally free to easily subscribe. All you have to do is put your mouse on the bottom right there. It'll pop a subtype. You can easily subscribe from there. I really do appreciate my current subscribers. I did make Kanto Legend in Kanto Cup, so hopefully that team shoutcast I give you helps out, but also these teams can take you to Legend as well. They're very powerful, so it's really up to you. Good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I will see you guys on the next video.